The first session will be handled by our speaker, Dr. B. Lakshmi Priya. And let me introduce the speaker to the audience now. Dr. B. Lakshmi Priya is an accomplished academician and researcher, currently serving as an associate professor in the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, School of Engineering, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. She has 15 years of teaching experience from reputed institutions like VIT Chennai, Manakula Vinayagar Institute of Technology, Pondicherry, and IFET College of Engineering, Viluppuram. She has earned her PhD degree from Pondicherry University with a dissertation titled Investigations on Liver Lesion Diagnosis in NSCT Domain. Her research interests include biomedical image and signal processing, machine learning, deep learning, semantic segmentation, and image to image translation. Post PhD, she pursued her postdoctoral fellowship during February 2021 to Jan 2023 in the Department of Surgical Gastroenterology, Jawaharlal Nehru Institute of Postgraduate Medical Education and Research, JIPMER, Puducherry, sponsored by Science and Engineering Research Board, SERB, under National Postdoctoral Fellowship NPDF scheme. During her PDF tenure, her research involved developing deep learning based automated surgery planning tool for liver surgery and generating high contrast images from non contrast CT images for patients with primary liver cancer. And she also has a good record of publications, and she has a total of 54 publications, counting international journals 24, international conference 20, 6 book chapters and 4 national conferences, and some other in reputed journals and conferences, including IEEE Journal of Biomedical and Health Informatics. She has received research grants worth 62.23 lakhs as PI and co-PI in research projects funded by ICMR, SERB and UGC. She is a recipient of Asia Pacific Hepatopancreatobiliary Association Bursary Award for the year 2023 and IEEE Award by IEEE Madras section in 2019. She is a senior member of IEEE with membership in signal processing and engineering in medicine and biology societies of IEEE. With such a good profile, we are fortunate to have ma'am for this session. And on behalf of the team and on behalf of all the participants, I welcome you, ma'am. Kindly take over the session, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your kind introduction. Shall I start the presentation, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. You can
Yes, ma'am.
proceed.
Okay. So I'll just switch off my video. Okay. So good evening, everyone. Today's session is on natural language processing in healthcare, enhancing patient records and communication. And the agenda for the next, it's not, one second. Agenda for this presentation is a very basic introduction of what is NLP and what is the significance of NLP in healthcare. And I have taken some 6 rare cases, use cases of NLP, like clinical decision support system, which is very generic, public health, surgery, organ transplantation, clinical trials, and drug discovery. Then followed by the challenges and ethical considerations and how to enhance the trustworthiness to conclude. Okay. So this will be minimal technical content, and my focus while preparing for this presentation is to project the possible research avenues. If there are any PhD candidates or any faculty who are guiding candidates, it might give some insights to choose some clinical problems. That was the major motive of my presentation during preparation. Now coming to NLP, before starting what is NLP, let us see some use cases which in our day-to-day life we are coming across. So this is the screenshot of my own spam mails in my Gmail account. So automatically the emails are segregated into spam, promotion, and something else, social and inbox primary, so on. Suppose just imagine if we are not, if there is no such facility, so everything as of now in this particular on this particular date, the spam mails count was 111. And when this is with this segregation is not there, imagine what will happen. So we may miss out some important mails. So this is one application we are coming across daily in NLP. The other one is the same Google Smart Compose, wherein we are typing some sentence and it will give some suggestion towards the what will be the next few words in the sentence. This is also an NLP application, and later recently Google has come out with one another application called Help Me Write. So if we want to compose any email, we can fetch Google will fetch, Gmail will fetch the data from the previous mail and pull in certain data, and it will try to compose the mail also. That is also one another feature which I didn't include over here. Then coming to the chatbots, when we visit any websites, commercial websites or bank websites, automatically a pop-up of the chatbot will open, and what help will be required for us, we can chat and we can get it over that. So this is on another application of NLP. Then Google Assistant, Siri, Alexa, again they are also working on it. Whatever instruction we say, Alexa will do. If you want to listen to some song, if you say that, it will just fetch it. I mean, play that song. And in the Google Calendar, if we have mentioned some notes or what is my agenda for tomorrow, and suppose let us for example let us have I have a meeting at 10 a.m. and currently I at home means, so if there is any traffic and if there is any possible delay of the traffic, it will also give an alert. So these sort of things Google, these assistants, virtual assistants are doing. And right now, in phone or in any website or even in our TV, instead of typing the sentences for search, we are doing voice based search. This is also an application. And translator, Google Translator is there. If I don't know any language, I can type in the language I know, and automatically that will be translated to the language you wanted to do. Is also an example for NLP. Then comes the what is it? Automatic caption generator. I'm just looking over a video in a YouTube, and there is a term called caption, and you can choose the language of your choice. So whatever may be the original language in which the video is presented, and we can come across the captions in multiple languages. So here there is a video of Madan Gauri channel related to the forest fire in US, California, I mean Los Angeles and California. So here the subtitles, for example, I have chosen the actual video is in Tamil, but the subtitles automatically it will be in Tamil. And if you want, you can change it to English, Hindi or Japanese, anything, any language you can choose. So it will come automatically without any delay. The captions will be generated. And this is the hero of today's era in ChatGPT. Whatever we need, ChatGPT will provide. So if I ask for any coding, it will provide. If I get any error in the code, if I ask for it, it will do. If I want to prepare a presentation, let us take an example of today's presentation. This is the title of my presentation. I need to do a presentation for 1 hour, 2 hour, or 5 days workshop. What are the possible contents I can give? Everything this is giving. So this is another, that is why I mentioned the hero of NLP in today's era. So ChatGPT, these are some use cases of NLP which we are using. Maybe as technical persons, we know they are the NLP, the background is NLP, but might be sometimes the non-technical or the layman also are coming across these applications, but they might not know they are NLP based applications. So now we'll see what is natural language processing. So what is natural language processing? The use cases what I have taken are processing the human languages basically, either in the form of text, uh, or else from it is fetching it from the words what we utter you through speech, or else from the handwritten languages also it will take. So I can say that NLP is a field of study that uses computers to understand, process, and manipulate human languages. That is what we mean by natural language. So, and then so that it will understand our language better and assist in providing language related task. So this is basically um, an intersection of computer science, and also we do some sort of prediction is there, so an AI will also come into picture, and the data for this is human language. So it's an intersection of computer science, artificial intelligence, and human language. So as I said, these are the possible inputs for the language, I mean NLP. So here it can be typed text, or it can be handwritten text, and it can be any language. It can be in Hindi or English or Tamil, whatever language it is. Or the input can be an audio signal from which the speech signal from which it you we need to first convert it. We need to do automatic speech to text recognition, then followed by NLP, or else sometimes even videos are there, and from the videos speech has to be recorded, I mean retrieved, and then processing has to be done. So these are the possible inputs as far as NLP is concerned. Coming to the uh, NLP evolution, I have divided it into like how we in Tamil we say kimu kipi, like that. I have divided the evolution of NLP before deep learning and after deep learning. So before it is not, NLP is not a newer technology. As over here mentioned over here, its inception dates back to 1949, but wherein no prediction and the other things were not there. In like ontology based, knowledge graph based, and mostly statistical models were there before the deep learning era. And later with the machine learning thing, neural language, I mean, neural networks were employed for the text recognition also. But with the advent of deep learning, like large language modeling, we can predict what will be the next, I mean, we can predict what will be the text before it is being typed. That is what Google Compose is doing. And there are large language models like chat GPTs. So all these are possible with the deep learning technology. And that is what it is. Coming to the pipeline of NLP, let us assume the content input we have is text. We need to do some pre-processing. And as usual, as in the case of any machine learning model, we need to extract the features from the text. And after that, we need to do some modeling using some machine learning algorithm or deep learning algorithm. And after this modeling, we'll come out with the required output, which might be if we want to do some classification like email, spam or non-spam, sentiment analysis, summarization, or I can, like ChatGPT, how it is doing, we can also generate the text. So this is the overall pipeline. Very briefly, let us see what are these technical terms. When it comes to voice, uh, NLP basically processes text. But when the input is voice, we need to first convert the voice into text. And there exists some signal processing methodology over there. And once text, it is converted to text. As I said in the previous case, we need to do some processing, extraction, modeling, and output generation. And once output is being done, again we need to convert back to the speech. So there are multiple libraries or applications available like GTTS, Google Text to Speech translator system. All those things are available. So very quickly, a very basic, I'm not going deep into any of the NLP technique. So my focus will be mostly on the medical field where we can apply NLP, where it's being applied and where can it be applied like almost a research avenues. So to begin with, text pre-processing, there are few standard techniques. Apart from this, based on the application, we can go for some other pre-processing technique also. So the first term in the first term in the pre-processing I've taken over here is tokenization. In NLP, which this tokenization is technically basically which divides the sentences or entire phrase into smaller chunks called tokens. And these tokens can be either words, dates, or punctuations, and even a fragment of words. This can be a token. Following this tokenization, we need to go for standardizing or lower, which means we need to convert it to lowercase. So entire text will be converted to lowercase to increase the consistency in analysis and reduce the vocabulary size, ultimately leading to accuracy by eliminating unnecessary variations in word representations. Then removing the noise, which include eliminating stop words and punctuation. It is mostly focused on, it is basically a cleaning process leading to better results in downstream tasks like sentiment analysis, classification, or some translation based jobs. Then comes the normalization. Normalization helps in reducing the complexity and variability, making it more suitable for later analysis. For example, we need to normalize everything. We can expand the abbreviations or any medical terms. BP can be written as BP or else B.P. So that has to be abbreviated as blood pressure. So make it uniform to increase the consistency in the text. The next process is lemmatization or stemming. It's an NLP technique that reduces the words to their root form. Here, the example I've taken over here is treating, treats, treated, all the root form is treat. Similarly, am is, are, was, where its root form is, root word is be. So this is what we call it as stemming or lemmatization. Then comes the feature extraction. As with any machine learning algorithm technique, we need to extract the feature from the data. So the data here is text. One of the most elementary as well as popular feature is bag of words, which is it basically transforms the tokens into a set of features and normally used for document classification, wherein every word is considered as a feature. So here every word is considered as a feature, and here we have a phrase, it's a puppy and it is extremely cute. So that is every word is considered as a feature, and its count is also being given how many times it has occurred. So this is the thing. So basically over here the textual data is being transformed into machine readable format without considering any grammar or any order of the word. That's what is bag of words. And another popular feature is term frequency, inverse document frequency. So which is defined as calculation of how relevant a word in a series is to a text. The meaning increases proportionally with the number of times it is occurring. We can say it. And it is basically a statistical parameter that reflects the significance of a word within the document. So it's basically calculated by number of occurrences of a term within a document D divided by total number of terms in the document. And IDF is the log of the TD TF, that is term frequency, and TF inverse document frequency is a product of these two terms. This is how this feature is being extracted. And another feature is n-grams. And again, it's a fundamental feature in NLP, which plays an instrumental role in capturing patterns and relationships within the sequence of words. So it considers, so far we have considered every word or every subword as an entity. But now it relates, it relates the sequence of words. So if we are considering n as 1, every word will be considered as a feature. That is unigram. If we consider n as 2, it will consider two adjacent consecutive words. We call this as bigrams. Example over for here is this is and is a sentence. Two words will be combined. And trigrams is 3 words. So like that we can combine n words. So apart from this, there are multiple other word vector and multiple other features can be done. So for an example, I have taken these 3 features. Then coming over here, next is language modeling. Before I go to RNN, after computing these features, any of the features or combination of features, this can be applied to any machine learning algorithm like support vector machine, artificial neural network, KNN, naive Bayes, or whatever the classifier we can give, that is being done for text classification. But later, with the advent of deep learning, multiple other applications of NLP other than text classification are like language translation or some text generation. For those things, sentiment classification, for those things, we need to process the data as a sequential data. So for that, RNNs are being applied. RNN means recurrent neural network. So it processes sequential data such as natural language or for time series analysis and so on. So it's basically a type of artificial neural network that processes sequential data, and it can make prediction based on the sequential inputs. So they are basically made of interconnected components that mimic how human processes sequential data. Almost how our human brain is processing a sequential data, it will work in that way. So they are effective in working with sequential data that even varies with length. So it basically uses some feedback loops to process the data, the previous words in the sequential data. Then LSTM, BiLSTM, GRU, or specialized forms of RNNs capable of learning long-term dependency and overcoming the disadvantage or limitation of RNN. What is the limitation of RNN is vanishing gradient. So with more number of during backpropagation, it fails to update the weights. So that is called vanishing gradient. And with that can be avoided or overcome with the help of LSTM, BiLSTM, GRU, and so on. Next comes the transformer models. So the transformer models are basically NLP models that use attention mechanisms. Where exactly to look into the data. That is what is attention. And it has encoder-decoder format. So the encoder reads the input sequence and create a representation of it, and decoder uses the representation created by the encoder to generate an output sequence. And the most important person over here is transformers, which is nothing but in transformer is the attention mechanism which allows the decoder to focus on specific part of the sequence when generating an output sequence. So likewise, here we have multiple models available. Then coming to the pre-trained language models or transfer learning models. What do you mean by pre-trained is they are actually trained over a very large database. and is made open source for the researchers to across the globe to use it. It is made open source. We have to already, it is not built from the scratch. We are not going to build a network from the scratch. We are going to use this pre-trained language model, and we are going to fine tune this model for our data set. That is what is pre-trained language model. Example is BERT, which is bidirectional encoder representation from transformer. This is basically introduced by Google. And GPT, generative pre-trained transformers, they are actually basically LLM models. And text understanding, generation, language translation, conversational systems, retrieval, emotional analysis, generation, all these things are examples of work that these pre-trained models can do. So with this basic introduction, starting from an elementary feature till the large language model, I didn't go anything in technical, but just a range I have covered. Now let me step into the healthcare. And even a person who has not worked with NLP, I hope by this time they would have understood text is going to be the data for the NLP. And unfortunately, if we take the data for the healthcare, it is, according to most of the surveys, it is identified that around 80% of the healthcare data is considered to be unstructured. Means these data does not fit into any predefined format, and they are found in the form of free text, clinical notes, narrative text, some text written, prescription given by the physician or clinician, some reports from the radiology, scan images, ultrasound or CT, like that. So it is not in a proper defined format. That is what is the huge challenge. More and more data is there, but it is not in a proper structured manner. So to work with the healthcare, we need to identify that unstructured data and we need to convert it to a structured one. That is what is the major challenge in ahead of working in working in healthcare for NLP technology. So what is the major objective of NLP in healthcare? Of course, to increase the diagnostic accuracy or to improve the patient outcome. So here I have taken 5 different objectives, and this is how the lecture following will be continuing. So the first one is to improve the patient care, means we need to provide enhanced diagnosis and treatment to avoid the false positive and true negatives, all those things. And how to do it? By extracting critical information from the unstructured clinical notes or lab reports, imaging studies, pathology reports, and so on. So we need to summarize the patient history for quick and informed decision making. Also, then patient communication should also be taken into consideration over here. So we need like, again I can say some we have some complex medical information that has to be, which can be understood only by the physicians, should also be made in such a way that it is made into a patient friendly language, we can say like that. So the next objective is optimizing clinical workflows. So there might be in one particular disease treatment or diagnosis or some treatment procedure, that might be multiple procedures. So there should be some procedural documentation processes, automated documentation, so which will reduce the overhead of the physicians and other healthcare providers. So essentially it means that with what sense I have included this is to streamline the data entry procedure so that relevant information can be retrieved from the records, and some decision or some insights can be generated out of that. That is what is optimizing the clinical workflows. Then enhancing data utilization, of course, includes the conversion of unstructured to structured one, how that is being done. Then comes the ensuring regulatory compliance and risk management, wherein we need to monitor and analyze the clinical notes and the other feedback given by the patient to identify and report something like adverse event has been taken care, has been happening or not. Then we need to ensure that the treatment procedure or whatever documentation that has been taking place in the hospital or in the clinic, they ensure the compliance with regulatory standards given by the medical association or some drug based association and so on. The last one is enhancing healthcare accessibility. Healthcare in this era, healthcare is there, but it should be easily accessible by anybody, a layman or a patient. So the first thing, we can very easily understand how this accessibility, what I mean by accessibility is to break out the language barrier. So I am basically a Tamil, but now I am in Delhi. So of course there will be a language barrier like that for any patient when they come to hospitals. There should not be any language barrier. So that has to be there should be some sort of multilingual support. There should be some assistive technologies like Google Translate. An example I'm saying. So it should be there. So recently, coming into healthcare research, NLP in healthcare research. So I have just checked the PubMed database. Just now I'm just looking at the search word I've used. The language spelling is also wrong. Just ignore it. So with some filters, I have done it. So there are some publications starting from 1988 till date. And I didn't include the survey, systematic reviews and all. Mostly very core NLP works has been there. If you look at it over the period of time, the research has been increased very much. Particularly in last year, there is a drastic improvement in the number of publications indexed in PubMed. Okay, what are the possible healthcare data available? The most common one is electronic health records, commonly abbreviated as EHR. So it's basically a heterogeneous data consisting of clinical notes. Clinical notes means what the doctor is providing, like discharge summaries, progress notes, physicians' dictations, like that. Then the laboratory reports, we know obviously the blood test report and the histopathology reports, all those things. Then radiology reports means ultrasound or CT scans and the reports of them. Then pathology, that is what is, we give some tissue for culture and coming out with the reports, that is histopathology or pathology reports. Then comes the second type of data as the literature, biomedical literature. So here only for the research purpose this is being used, and proper summary, proper protocols should be followed, all those things. Clinical trials, I'll come into that very in detail. Patient generated data. What is patient generated data? Patients will exchange some information between the doctor or the other healthcare provider through some media, social media or whatever it is, or some forums. So those data are also. Then again, another patient in wearable devices come into picture. That is also being generating a huge volume of data. You can then all in the wearable devices, apart from the vital parameters, there will be some textual data, some alerts will be there, call logs, like that. Coming to the medical coding and technology, like in drug databases, we can go for it. These are basically structured vocabularies only. Some database for medications or drug banks for detailed drug information. These are the thing. And imaging text metadata means we have a scan report and the report will be given by the radiologist. That is the annotation. That is what we mean by imaging text data. Whatever text is accompanied with the scan, that is what. Then comes the surveys. In public health and all, mostly patient reported outcome measures, they'll get the feedback from them, or some health based surveys will be carried out. Then again, a conversation with the help of some chatbots. And then government and regulatory documents. What I have included over this is whether any treatment procedure or the drug administration is as per the norms of FDA or not. FDA means what is it? Food and Drug Administration, I suppose. Then, for the case of research, if there is no data, sufficient data is there, we can synthetically generate some data using some GAN architectures, or we can generate those data. That is what is synthetic and augmented database. So the very first process in the case of medical data is we need to de-identify the patient information. I'll talk about this later in the ethical consent also. First thing, we need to de-identify the patient's information. Next, before that, during collection, we should get whoever data we are using, we need to get the consent from the patient. So you remember whenever we go for surgeries and all, some procedures, they'll get signed from you. That will also, sometimes it may also include a statement called this particular data will be used for future study purpose or for the training purpose of the learning surgeons or some other persons, residents like that. Sometimes if you are going for any clinical or observational study, we will inform every patient and get a concern from the patient and also from the relatives or caretakers, whoever is accompanying them. That is what is de-identification. Normalization is basically, it depends on patient to patient, data to data. It includes mostly the pre-processing techniques, what we have done. Collecting and making it into a form of a structured data is what normalization. And we need to do some annotation. That is what is marking the labels, creating labels for every class or whatever it is. So basically, the information extraction, we have seen tokenization and all those things, and also feature extraction. So what are the normal information we need to extract that might be extracted from the clinical data? The clinical data can be narrative text or the prescriptions, whatever it is. Medical conditions, what is the current status? Is there any symptoms, or is there any previous surgery or treatment given to them in that has occurred in the past? And what is the procedure that was done over here? What is the medications? All those things are we need to extract these information. Then comes the relation extraction. So basically, this relation extraction is identifies and connects the medical attributes, related medical attributes. So for a given anatomy of a person, what is the current medical condition of the patient? And for the given anatomy, for a patient anatomy, what can be the procedure that can be followed? So that is what is relation extraction. So now I have termed a new term called NLP is extended to clinical natural language processing. That is obvious from the term clinical natural language processing, means the text is going to be the clinical data. And what is this? Why this is needed? Obviously, if I want to include NLP in healthcare, we need to go for clinical NLP. And as we have already, I think I'm repeating the same thing multiple times, the data is available in the form of some clinical reports. An example for a clinical reports, these are the possible narrative text. The doctor can write something before meeting a doctor, a house surgeon or a learning resident will get the information from us. In most hospitals, it is happening right now. So they will get the information. They will interact with the patient and they will get the information. They look at the results and then they'll make it in an order, and then it will be passed on to the consultant or the doctors. So those narrative texts, these are the possible terms that can be present in a narrative text. So what is the challenges in the clinical NLP? As with a normal NLP, the most important challenge, the most prominent one is sarcasm. How to deal with the sarcasm? What do you mean by sarcasm is in what sense I'm saying, right? I have no fever. I'm happy. I'm unhappy. Like that. I have no fever. Though there is a negative word, I need to say whether this is basically said in a positive note or a negative note. So that sarcasm identification is generally, in general, in NLP is difficult, is challenging. But coming to the clinical NLP, it's highly challenging. So this is the quote, I mean, this is the data I've taken from one of the paper published in Journal of Biomedical Informatics. So I'm taking a example for some basic challenges. One is the word sense disambiguation, in what sense it is being uttered. So one is the patient underwent a left BK amputation, means below knee. Here BK means below knee. And there is one another sentence, BK viremia in the past, where BK denotes the virus. So this has to be identified. The NLP algorithm should be able to discriminate between these two BK. How can we do it better? Abbreviate it. Then again, another example over here, CVA in the first statement represents cerebrovascular accident. And in the second statement, the same abbreviation denote postovertebral angle. Some medical terminologies which I'm not familiar. Then, negation identification. The chest x-ray showed no infiltrates. So on looking, even if I look at some of my scan reports, there will be terms like there is no mass seen. So which means we will just think there should be mass seen or not. It means it is actually a positive term. There is no infiltrate. Infiltrate means something should not happen. It is not there. But the term no can make the sentence into a negative one. So like that negation also, whether it is mentioned in a positive note or in a negative note, has to be identified. Then example for information extraction from clinical diabetics, clinical notes related to diabetes and blood pressure. The patient came in today with ongoing tissues with diabetic control. So here the keywords they have taken over here is diabetes and then insulin for a long term, high blood glucose, and based on that the value of some value has been identified with the help of some regulated methodologies. This is an example. And another example. So here, most responsible diagnosis, COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disorders. So that is the actual condition and the history. How did the diagnosis happen is there was a shortness of birth, and this may lead to this may have a risk of heart disease. So based on the diagnosis, based on the history, diagnosis is made, and based on that, the future, what can happen can also be, the risk also can be predicted. Another example, which I don't want to spend. Now, these are few methodologies to convert the data to unstructured data to structured one. One is text pre-processing. We have seen multiple things. Named entity recognition. Those who are working with NLP know the term named entity recognition. Coming to the medical terminologies, we should identify and extract certain entities like medical conditions, medications, laboratory values from the reports, procedures, and even the dates. These are the examples of making for named entity recognition. We need to identify and make it into a tabular format. Or else we can go for rule-based parsing technique, which means we need to use some predefined rule to extract and map the text into a structured format. For example, normally the BP will be given as a fraction, upper value slash a lower BP value. 120 bar 80 means means that 120 means something value, systolic pressure. And 80, the other value 80, I don't know the term for that. Like that, we need to identify that particular parameter. Then comes some, if needed, we can classify the text also. Text in the sense medical notes into predefined categories, whether they belong to diagnosis or treatment or lab results and so on. Then NLP things, even we can go for some NLP based thing. Then, coming into ontology mapping. So basically, extracted entities will be mapped into some standard vocabularies. That is what is ontology. And then table extraction means we can identify and extract the tabular data from the reports. Or sometimes even we can go for some optical character recognition. And relation extraction, already we have seen, we have to identify the relationship between the medical attributes or entities in the text. For example, metformin 500 mg twice daily means it is the relationship is between the drug and the dosage. The drug is metformin and dosage is 500 mg. The frequency is twice daily, like that. Data normalization. Already we have seen standardize the data format. For example, if there is any date, we need to mention it in a proper format. MMDDYYYY. Like that, we need to do it. Or any units, we have to make it into a standard format. That's what it is. So some of the clinical NLP tasks I've given over here. This paper particularly deals with identifying from a huge population who are the eligible patients to go for lung cancer screening. Obviously, smoking data will be there. From that, it will start. Okay. So another thing is with the pathology report, identifying whether any liver disease is there or not. This is also some classical clinical NLP works. And coming into the major thing over here, so now I'm going to concentrate more on the surgery, public health, organ transplantation, clinical trial, and drug discovery. I suppose these I have chosen in such a way that some rare cases has to be considered. So clinical decision support, it's like text classification. That's what some examples I've given, whether it is the liver is normal or what, we can make the decision. I don't want to go deep into it. Now, in surgery, NLP has a significant application. For example, we can plan the surgical planning. We can make we can enhance the surgical planning. We can make some decision assistance in the decision making and so on. So here, it includes pre-operative planning. Before every surgery, there will be some planning. So I mostly worked in liver. So I have developed a surgical planning tool. So before the surgery planning, we will give you this tool will give you the volume of the liver, how it looks like, where is the tumor present, and what is the where to make a cut, incisions, all those things we will decide. So likewise, here also some planning can be done. So analyzing the medical records from unstructured data in the EHR, we can go for some procedures. What is the first thing to be done? And some risk assessment can be done in the pre-operative planning from the medical reports. Next is operative note analysis. Operating note analysis is basically automating the thing. Whatever during the surgery, whatever the surgeon speak or whatever the surgeon says or whatever wants to give some note, that can be made automatic. And if you take any institutions like JIPMER and all, it is basically a research institution. Residents will be there. Students will also be there in the surgery. So they will teach during the surgery. So these things can be automated so that it can be used for the other surgeons or the same surgeons even when the surgery is not happening. Those things can be automated. Then is decision support. So based during the surgery, some decision whether to go for this strategy or for the other strategy, we can go for it. And post-operative complication or post-operative monitoring, like analyzing the discharge summary and what is the follow-up notes to be done, all those things can be done in the surgery thing. And also detect the complication from the um, analyzing the post-operative notes or the patient's feedback or whatever symptom they exhibit, that is post-operative monitoring. Surgical research and training. uh, NLPs normally process vast amount of surgical literature and evidence-based surgery things. This can be used like an NLP-driven chatbots or virtual assistant can simulate the patient's interaction so that this learning surgeons can learn from that. Enhancing the robotic surgery. This robotic surgery NLP systems can be used to interpret verbal commands from the surgeons during the operation. So basically, a robotic instrument will be used by the surgeon, and he will be working on it, and that movement of the surgeon will be translated into the instrument movement to increase the precision. So whatever voice note he is giving, that can be automated. Patient communication and consent, simplifying the medical language. Whatever this doctors are technically writing, that can be translated. Then analyzing the patient's feedback about the surgical care, like how they, it's something like a sentiment analysis. And they can also be used, NLP can also be used to identify the discrepancies in the surgical documentation or workflow that may indicate some errors, due some human errors, or sometimes it may identify the risk post surgery. And ultimately it is to ensure surgeons are following a standardized protocols uh, based on the records, clinical records. So this is some paperwork. I think I don't want to go for it. So coming to the research avenues of NLP in surgery. So first thing is automated clinical documentation. So these are the emerging or evolving areas where scholars or students or any researcher can work on it. So we can employ NLP systems to automatically generate detailed operative and post-operative notes by looking at the videos. Surgical videos will be available everywhere. Wherever surgeries are happening, videos will be, particularly with the minimally invasive surgeries like laparoscopy, videos will be there, and some summarization or note generation can be done from the videos. That is what it is. Surgical decision support systems. We can extract some information from the case reports or patient records to suggest most suitable surgical procedures. So this varies from surgery to surgery. So that is what it is. And analysis of surgical outcomes. Post-surgical complication can be detected using NLP by extracting and analyzing the information about the complications. What might be the complication later, whether the sutures may uh, develop some infections or bleeding, all those things. This can be done from the patient's feedback, or even some data sets can be created to understand the trends of surgical success rates. Also can be done. Then is operating room workflow optimization. So we can extract insights prior to the surgeries to predict necessary steps, or evaluate the transcripts, something like that. We can go for it. And the most in the medical field, this is the most important one: surgical education and training. So NLP data can be analyzed for transcripts or notes into some training simulations to assess the skills or to enhance the skills of the learning surgeons. And these are some of the research avenues wherein you can work, wherein we can choose to work. So coming to the NLP in public health, so disease surveillance and outbreak detection can be done. So which includes some real-time monitoring of the public health through some social media post or official report that some pandemic or epidemic is about to happen, like that. We can, like, some early warnings of some sort of flu that is being happening in some part of the world, that may come over here, like that some sort of surveillance can be done over here. And public health communication basically deals with the sentiment of the public, means what people think about it. And it's how can this information can sometimes even the information, there might be some false information revolving around the social media. So that can be given a clarity like that. Then behavioral analysis. So again, entirely the public health deals with the social media and the other survey data to track the health behaviors. For example, we can identify the any geographical location for any occupational hazards, like people who are working in the mines or people who are residing near the mines like Neyveli and all. We can make some survey and we can track the health behavior of those persons, even including the mental health discussions also can be identified. Then program and policy evaluation. So some sort of text mining can be done to evaluate the effectiveness of health interventions, or we can get some feedback from the public about certain specific health initiatives like that. Health disparities and equity research. So basically identifying the access to the social determinants like what can I say? Like income based discrepancies, categorizing them, or demographic disparities, or understanding the populations, like extracting insights from the survey responses or some communities or forums or social media. Not only the social media, there are multiple forums or communities available. From that, we can extract the data. Then comes pandemic preparedness. So here monitoring the public awareness and analyzing the news and online conversations to do some tracking of public awareness and compliance. For example, COVID-19 is a best example everyone can do. And using the NLP, we can analyze the reports on the health resource to inform the supply chain demand, something like that. Then public health research, NLP automates the extraction of trends and key findings from the vast volume of data generated in any huge hospital or multi-speciality hospitals, and integrating them and doing some data harmonization um, to come out with some global health reports. Then mental health monitoring, which basically means some suicide prevention, early warning systems uh, can be done based on the online postings, or like what is the status we are having. We can identify them. What is the mood of the patient, not only patient, every public, right? So like a better example everyone can understand is suicide prevention. So we can flag the high risk language in their online post and so on. And we can also do some designing of health campaigns. Normally the community medicine peoples in every hospitals or medical colleges, they will be taking care of all those things. They will get the data from multiple private primary health centers or other nodal centers, secondary nodes and so on. And they will make a design for the health campaign also. So the basic motive behind this is to understand the target audience language and evaluate their effectiveness. In the sense, measuring the impact of campaigns through some sentiment or content analysis from the public responses. So researches are being conducted by means of some surveys. Surveys will be collected from them, and from that we need to extract certain trends. That is how it can be done. Global health monitoring, like there are World Health Organization reports are available for every year. Globocan will be there. You can download it and you can identify in which particular area particular type of disease is prevalent. For example, if we take liver cancer, what is the, every year they will publish a data. How many people have been newly diagnosed with liver disease, and what is the expected rate, and how is the inception or the mortality rates going on. All those trends can be identified from the newspapers and the other postages. So some papers based on this NLP applications. So the data source for particularly for the public health, obviously the social media, health records. So aggregated and anonymized EHRs from large scale for large scale analysis, scientific literature also. Means the WHO, World Health Organization report and other organizations reports, news articles, public surveys. So we can conduct surveys and work on it. The third avenue I have chosen is organ transplantation. So nowadays these things are very common. Kidney transplant and liver transplant, heart transplant, lung transplant, bone marrow transplant. Multiple transplants are being happening in these days. So suddenly, which means the transplantation basically has a donor and a recipient. So somebody should be ready to provide, if in case of liver transplant at the end stage liver disease, uh, if there is, liver is one of the organ, if you remove a portion of the liver within a 2-3 weeks time, it will grow back. That is the that is regenerate. That's the only organ that can regenerate. So this concept, when a patient's liver is not properly working, someone else can give their liver. In the sense, a portion of the liver from the normal donor will be cut and then will be given to the recipient. So not just like that, we can anybody can act as a donor. So there should be a donor matching processes that should happen. So for those things, multiple persons will be waiting in the uh, donor, I mean waiting for liver transplantation or whatever is the transplantation, whatever is the organ for to be transplanted. Suddenly there happens some brain death in a hospital, or suddenly some accident happens. So what happens is, from the dead person, within a few hours of the death, these organs can be transplanted to somebody else. So within a very short duration, that has to be done. So they will analyze the patient records who are waiting for that, and for these, if some organ can be donated, that will be matching has to be done, and that has to be communicated. For all those things, retrieving the patient data, we can use NLP. That is what is the crux of this NLP in organ transplantation. First is donor and recipient matching. Multiple parameters has to be checked over here. Then assessing the pre-transplant link means predicting the complications. If this particular donor and the recipients are matched, what will be the as a risk? Is there any risk involved in it? That is what is pre-transplant risk. And evaluating the psychosocial factors also contribute into this risk assessment. Then post-transplant monitoring. So monitoring the health records, NLP can be used to identify the potential signs of organ is whether accepted or rejected, infection is there or some complication is there, any adverse event is happening. For that, NLP can be used. Organ procurement and allocation. So there are some policies and regulatory uh, that has to be very strictly adhered into the organ transplantations, and those standards are being met during the organ transplantation can also be checked through NLP. And some time sensitive communication, I said about this this thing, to check for the proper recipient when any donor is available. If we are taking it from a person who was dead, we call that as a cadaver. So for a cadaver, the life of the organ will be very very short. So within that short span of the time, we need to do it. Sometimes live donors will be there. So for that, it is, the time is not a sensitive part. So even for that, to match whether, I mean, to find whether there is a match between the donor and the recipient, we can use NLPs, because multiple parameters have to be checked, and there are legal steps also involved in it. They will take the uh, consent of the donor. With the help of they will record the consent, video recording of the consent of the donor will be done. So multiple legal things are included in this, so wherein we can uh, use NLP techniques. Then what is there? Predictive analytics and risk assessment. That is what, whether it can be accepted, or what will be the risk of rejection if this donor, though there are multiple parameters that match, even after that there might be some possibilities the failure can happen. So using the patient records that can be made, that can be predicted. Then automatic review of the literature can be done from large volumes of the transplanted research, whether this can work out or not. We need to do such a research also prior to that. And clinical trial matching also we can do it for it. I'll talk about what is clinical trial next. Then comes patient support and communication. There is one organ over, there is one paper I found. I think this is lung transplantation. Something it is there. Next comes the clinical trial and how it can be, how NLP can be implemented in clinical trial. Clinical trial is basically a research study conducted on human participants to evaluate the safety or effectiveness and the overall benefits of certain interventions. Like some medicine will be given to a set of patients, and the research will be carried out to to evaluate to assess the efficiency or effectiveness of that particular drug or some passive substance, like that. So that is what is clinical trial. So if you want to perform some clinical research on clinical trial, we need to register in the clinical trial registry, and we have to do for it. So for example, for vaccines, to test the vaccines, it will be tested over a population, right? We need to identify the participants properly. So for all those things, we can go for NLP based things. There are multiple types of clinical trials, treatment based trials, or screening trials, and so on. Something like placebo control trials. One of my co-researcher worked in our lab on placebo controlled trials, which means for the patient who are waiting for the liver transplantation, they have given a passive substance. I don't remember, VSL3, something like that they have given. It's basically a passive substance, doesn't have any medical implication, but taking that and one medicine has been given to two different set of patients, and having checking the effectiveness of that drug was being done by one of my friend. That is what is an example I am just saying for a clinical trial. So in clinical trial, what can be the NLP? How can it be included? So to identify the proper participants for the clinical trial, we can identify. That is the second one I have mentioned over here. Patient recruitment and eligibility screening. NLP can be used based on the screening methodologies. Based on the approval for one particular drugs, and who are the patients and who are the controls to be recruited. That can be done using NLP. And clinical design and setup. So here NLP can be used to analyze the trial protocols to ensure some clarity or inconsistency or consistency related to clinical trials. We can include it. Then, as usual, if any patient is participating in any research, we need to get the consent from the patient, and simplifying the consent document. There will be some multiple pages available. So simplifying it for patient to patient, highlighting the important contents, the complex medical jargons can be simplified into patient-friendly language, and improving the understanding and the compliance with the consent can be done. Multilingual NLP models can also if the consent is available, for example, in any jipmer is taken, means the consent will be available in English, Tamil, might be in Hindi, but there is a patient from Odisha is coming, means then there should be a multilingual support. If there is available, the translation can be done. That is one thing. Next, monitoring and adverse event detection. Early detection. When a participant is there in a clinical trial, based every time we need to collect data from them, and we need to find in prior, we need to identify the adverse event detection. Because of this drug or the placebo that is being given to them, anything abnormal is happening or not, it has to be identified from the feedback they are providing. Regulatory and compliance support. Basically, again, these tools can be employed to extract and summarize the data required for their regulatory submissions. Everything is going as per the regulatory advices. There will the whatever the board or like FDA or whoever it is, clinical registry, whatever they are providing. I mean, they have given some advices as per that norms. Is it going on? We can also check for it. Then post-trial analysis and reporting means we can extract some key findings from the feedback given by the patient, or some after taking it for some number of days, taking the medicine for the drug for some number of days, we can go for a test and assessing the result. So that for there also NLP can be included. Next, post-market surveillance and real-world evidence. So again, comes into the picture is the EHR or the social media or the patient forums can be used to monitor the long-term effects of the treatments or the clinical trials that is being taking place. One particular paper over here is provided over here. Then comes the drug discovery. So drug discovery, I heard this is the next session to be done. So these are the terms I have included. So to identify for proper for every drug, we need to identify the proper targets, right? So NLP can be used to extract the information about the disease mechanisms or the like gene interaction or protein interaction, like that. From the literature, you can NLP can be it is simply a data mining technique that can be included to identify those insights. Analyzing the clinical trials, from the past clinical trials, we can identify the factors that may contribute for the success or failure of a particular drug. Or some here also we can go for recruitment analysis. So who are the proper patients to be studied? That can be done over here. Drug repositioning. What it should be. So from the existing data sets of something related to drug labels and literature, or analyzing the some mentions or case reports, that can be done over here. So pharmacovigilance means adverse event monitoring. So the NLP can be employed to identify the event reporting system, or from the something like an event reporting system from social media or patient forum, to detect the adverse drug reactions, signal detection, and identify some patterns or signals indicating safety concerns about the drugs. All those things can be done. And patent analysis. So to track the innovations, NLP tools can be used to analyze patents, to understand existing drugs, their mechanisms, how they work, gaps in the markets, demands, all those things can be done. Biomedical data integration, again, to extract and map entities, biomedical in the sense what it should be, like gene and protein reaction, the response to the drugs, all those things. Omic data can be done. Omic data integration can be done. Accelerating the hypothesis generation. So it's basically it is like a trend analysis, like identifying the emerging trends in the disease research or some drug development by analyzing some patterns in the from the literature or from conference presentations. By attending conference presentation, we can analyze those trends. So these are the 6 major um, fields I have chosen. Not necessarily these fields. I felt this will be a rare thing. So like that, we have multiple things. We can how can NLP be used in controlling the inpatient or outpatient OPDs or medical insurance also. Multiple departments are there. Medical insurance, then radiology also, automating the radiology reports also. Radiology is a common field, I felt, so I didn't include that. So we can, similar things, you can just identify it and identify a proper expert and then discuss, then we can work on it. So we are almost nearing the conclusion. So what are the challenges in NLP? Obviously, the data and some annotation is going on. Then annotated data scarcity. We need large language models and all, we need huge volume of data. So availability of the data is also a challenging one. Privacy. Whenever the healthcare it is patient's data, there should be privacy. And this artificial intelligence or any subset of AI, no, we cannot say this is an indigenous technology. So we should depend on someone else also. The technology people, we should also depend on some persons. For healthcare, we need an expert who's in most cases will be a doctor. So we don't know this domain specific knowledge. So these are the major challenges in any of the healthcare thing. And similarly, regulatory and ethical issues that I'll come now. So whenever we are working on any open source data, these ethical aspects do not come into picture. But when we are working with the hospital data, so we need to get the ethical clearance from the hospital. So when we do that, we should follow the rules of the ethical, certain ethical aspects or regulatory conventions over there. So here, first thing, we need to get the consent from the patients. Suppose there are multiple studies. So clinical trial is one such study I said. There is something called randomized control study or observational study or retrospective study. Most of my works are retrospective work. Means I didn't obtain data from the patients, but pre-existing data in the form of images were used for my research. But still, when I get the images, patient's identity will not be there. That will be removed. So before that, I should get the permission for this particular data will be used for this research only. I will not, I will have the data confidential. I will not share with anyone, something like that. There are multiple things available. So clearing all those things, like how we apply for a funding agency for a project, we need to apply a proposal for in a hospital that I'm going to work on this particular research problem. For that, I need this data. While doing so, they will ask about who will be, when this, what will be the outcome of this study. If the outcome of this study is a product, who will have the ownership of the product? What will be the percentage of ownership between the two parties? Or if this outcome is in terms of publications, what will be the credit for the hospital? Like that, we need to say, and all the liabilities and governing aspects, we need to comply with that. And then only the data will be shared with us. Then we can start working on it. Sticking on, very strictly adhering to the rules, whatever the hospital is giving. That is in just in a one sentence, this is how the ethical aspect is there. If you are working with human data or animal data, we need to get the ethical clearance. Even if you are working with images only and no patient will be recruited for your study, we need to get the consent ethical consent, ethical clearance from the hospitals or the research organizations from wherever we are getting the data. And some clinical NLP data sets I have not used with this data set, but when preparing for the session, I just came around these NLP data sets with clinical data. One is I2B2, which stands for Informatics for Integrating Biology and the Bedside. These are the NLP related data sets for smoking, obesity, medication, relations, co-reference, and so on. It is available. It is basically compiled by Harvard Medical Institution, and that is made open source. Some challenges are there. We can work on that with getting proper consent, with proper permission from the whoever has posted this, the owner of the data. We can work on it. Then one another data set is Mimic 2, Mimic 3, Mimic 4. Multiple Mimic data sets are there. I think Mimic 3 or 4 will have the surgical data sets. You can also try that. That is also open source. But just like that, we cannot download like in how we download it in Kaggle. We need to get the approval from the whoever has generated the data. And this is basically a PhysioNet data set. Then comes empty samples data sets. There are 40 related domains in the medical field, wherein they are providing something related to the medical things, starting from allergy, immunology, autopsy, bariatrics. Bariatrics means reducing the weight through surgery, cardiovascular, and so on. So you can, I have provided, this is, the link is not given. It is basically emptysamples.com only. You can try with this. And these are the other data sets wherein you can work with the image captioning. I didn't cover it. Basically, if you have an image captioning, it is an intersection of computer vision and NLP. Some image captioning data sets are available for chest X-rays. I didn't find any other thing. This Indiana University, we are currently working on it. It is available from Kaggle. You can download. The other things I'm not sure, but similar data sets are available. Some of the open source NLP systems I found from the literature already available. NLP systems are there. And in general, how to include the trustworthiness in any clinical diagnosis. So we humans, we technology people will work on the AI algorithm, but the human experts are really the clinicians. They will have the human intelligence, and how that has to be translated onto a machine is machine learning or deep learning. We will work on that particular part, machine intelligence. So they working separately and we working separately will never work out. We have to have a hybrid intelligence, which means a team of persons who are having knowledge about the ML and deep learning together with the human experts in that particular domain has to be there. If we are working with AI or NLP in weather reports, then some meteorologists should be there in the team. Likewise, so when you're working with any healthcare projects, healthcare research, to assess the result, to provide a research problem statement, and to validate the outcome, we definitely need a clinician. So that is what it is. So we should definitely have an expert with us working together. And to conclude, so how to make any clinical diagnosis, CAT system for clinical things, a trustworthiness, whether to whether to rely or on that particular AI algorithm. First, we need to have robust algorithms, like we have transformers, BERT, and the other system, other models for NLP. And I didn't talk about the interpretability. Why the decision is made in favor of one particular class or any decision, that interpretability should be there. And definitely an expert for healthcare, a doctor should be there in your loop working with you, so that together this combination will give you the trustworthy AI. So with this, I conclude my session.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for giving us insights of NLP in this field. This is really new to us, and we have gained a lot of information from you, starting from the application, and you have explained in detail about where to get the data sets, and also you have give a touch upon the ethical aspects also. Thank you so much for this information, ma'am. Ma'am,
Thank
we
you.
do
Thank you,
have
ma'am.
yeah, ma'am. We do have a question in the chat box.
Yes,
Uh,
ma'am.
yeah, Mr. Mubashir Farouk, he has asked about if you want to do text classification of clinical notes, which algorithms we can use in modeling, ma'am?
Text classification, you can start with basically, even you can go for a machine learning approach also. But also you can go for some, like, what is it? Sequential modeling also, if you want to go. Then you can go for RNN based thing like LSTM, by LSTM also. But simply if it is a classification, even an ML algorithm is sufficient. But it all depends on what feature you are extracting. The performance is based on the feature you are extracting.
Hope he gets an answer for his question. Any other questions? Yeah, ma'am. One more question, ma'am. So, ma'am, from Deepali, we have got a question saying sometimes we didn't get data sets, so that how to generate the data set, or how much it will be effective to generate data sets in medical field. So the if we generate data set,
Generation of data set, I'm not sure about it. If you want to work, there are two options. One, identify, what to say, identify the open source data set. From the available data set, choose a problem, or else from the society or from real time, you identify some problem statement and choose your research data set from hospitals. I'm just saying it in one word. You can get it from hospital, but it is not such an easy job. So you need to work in harmony with a doctor. So should also have some interest, who should also spend time for you, something like that. So these are the two possible ways I know. But medical data set generation is not difficult, is I don't think it is possible, but you can collaborate with any hospital, do some MOU like thing, then you convince them this is the project research statement I have. Suppose normally in healthcare we don't have the statement, like we engineers will think of classification, image text generation, doing some segmentation, something like that, coming out with a trend. But that is what is not required by doctors. They are working with the real patients, so they may have some problems, right? They may not problems, they may have some challenges or limitations, they may have some hurdles in their routine clinical things. So you interact with doctors and then try to come out with a research problem, then together we can work, that will work out. So luckily I got um, doctors like that, and I'm just working like that.
yes, thank you, ma'am. Deepali ma'am has asked one more questions. Is there any site for physiological data set, ma'am?
You just check it out, ma'am. I have said some thing. I have not worked with NLP actually, to be frank. I am for the first time. I just wanted to work on NLP for a longer time, but I didn't do it. But I took this opportunity to just do a literature survey of what can be done in thing. So we can just check it out for any medical data. Definitely, the psychiatric or psychology based data sets will be there. So you can just check all those things. One has mentioned that there is a data set called DEAP.
Yes, ma'am.
You can check that.
Yeah, ma'am. And Deepa ma'am has asked how to select the features in image data set.
It all depends on the problem you are working, ma'am. So suppose the image, you can choose either go for texture features or shape based features or color features. Just do some literature survey on what type of that, or you can come out with your own date features also. It all depends on the applications. You need to, there are multiple features, hundreds and thousands of features available. So you need to identify which feature will work out. Maybe on a trial and error basis, you can try, or else you can come out with some, what it is. With the literature, you can identify this might work properly. Like that, you can do.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other question participants to discuss with Lakshmi, ma'am?
Okay,
I think that's
I
all, ma'am.
just would like to conclude by one thing. So, which normally my mentor, who's a gastroenterology surgeon, who used to say, and wherever I give presentation, I'll end that with that particular note. I would also like to share that with you now. If you choose a problem in a library for your research, if you choose a problem in your library, your outcome of the research will be there in paper. In the sense, it will be published in the reputed journals and so on. But if you choose a problem statement from the society, your outcome will serve the society. So choose, we need to decide where to choose the problem, either from the literature or from the society, then we can work on it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for this wonderful note, and thank you for enlightening us in this different view to make our participants to learn something new in this session, ma'am. Thank you so much for your presence.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Now I
I'll
invite
start
Maladi, ma'am, to
sharing and I'll
introduce.
leave, ma'am. And I'll
Yes,
leave the
ma'am.
meeting. Thanks.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.